When one thinks of the 1800s, they tend to think in terms of the pioneering nurse who was Florence Nightingale. But in fact there were two pioneering nurses of that era. One was Mary Seacole and the other was Florence Nightingale. And it's important to think of those two in combination. When one thinks of Florence Nightingale, you can connect with modern science and the modern face of nursing. When one thinks of Mary Seacole, the connection is more with the traditions, the African traditions, which led to the more historic face of nursing. And if you bring those two things together, what you have is the whole picture of nursing as it exists today. Mary was born in the 1800s. She was born out of slavery, but at a time of slavery. And if one thinks about the nursing and the caring traditions during the slavery period, if one were a slave, they would not have the same form of medical support that would otherwise have existed. And so the African traditions of caring and nursing prevailed as the slaves would look after their own. And it is those traditions that actually Mary learned from her own mother. She was somebody who was determined to administer care and support to anyone around her who required such support, whether that be during the period that she was based at her mother's lodgings in Kingston, Jamaica, or later on when she was to travel to places such as Panama. In the 1800s, when the Crimean War broke out, the British government sent effectively a convoy of nurses to the Crimea. Mary was in Panama and decided that she wished to go and give her support to the British soldiers. She came to Britain. After some many weeks of travel, she felt rejected. She felt rejected probably because of her race. But undeterred and with great courage, she decided that she was going to travel to the Crimea. And so she did so, initially to Scutari in Turkey and then across to the Crimea, where she travelled towards the front line. Mary was to set up effectively what became the British Hotel. And there she provided comforts and other forms of support to the British soldiers. But in particular, she would provide them with nursing care. Something that she was passionate about was making sure that the soldiers were able to function, were given all of the nutrition and other creature comforts, but above all, she would be there to give them medical aid. She was incredibly famous at that time. And in fact, when the Crimean War ended and she came back to Britain, albeit she was bankrupt, she was incredibly well known. And there was a 4-day festival to raise money for her, as well as a number of other fundraising campaigns. Sadly, after Mary's death in the 1800s, she was eventually forgotten. And it is incredibly important to the whole concept of nursing that we actually remember Mary Seacole alongside Florence Nightingale. Mary represents diversity within the nursing workforce. We know that health professionals in particular come from so many incredibly diverse countries, from so many diverse cultures and different backgrounds. So Mary alongside Florence is representative of the beautiful diverse workforce that we have within our NHS. In around the 1980s, a group of Jamaican women came over from Jamaica to visit Mary Seacole's grave. Mary was buried at Kensal Green Cemetery in West London. Unfortunately, the grave had fallen into disrepair, and so through the steps that they made, funds were raised in order to restore the grave. At the same time, or shortly thereafter, a decision was taken, led by Clive Soley, to run a campaign for a statue of Mary Seacole. And Lord Soley began the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal in 2004, and over a course of 12 years, over £500,000 was raised. Donations made from individuals and through small organisations. So Mary Seacole statue is very much the people's statue. The statue of Mary Seacole, sculpted by Martin Jennings, was unveiled on June the 30th of 2016 and became the first bronze statue of a named black female anywhere in the UK. Following the unveiling of the statue, it became incredibly important that we use the statue as a symbol and a platform to ensure that we could promote social equality, but also raise awareness of Mary. And so from that was born the Mary Seacole Trust, which resulted from a name change of the Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal. And the Mary Seacole Trust now has responsibility for maintaining the statue. Now the statue shows Mary walking stridently towards the battlefield front lines. It shows her carrying a bag of medicine over her shoulder. It shows her as a woman of age. You'll see that Mary was around the age of 50 at the time that she went to the Crimea. The disc behind her represents the globe. Mary was a traveller, and the sculptor Martin Jennings went out to the Crimea using historic maps and found the site of the British Hotel. Digital imprints were taken of the ground area, and that forms the surface of the disc. The disc is actually representative of the very ground where the British Hotel was, and embedded within it are fragments of Porter glass which we know date back to the time of the Crimean War. So when you're standing with Mary and her statue, you're actually taking yourself truly back into time. You're standing next to a symbol that is about courage, that is about compassion and determination. It is about a woman of age and a woman of colour that would not allow herself to be deterred by those who may regard her as a person of a certain characteristic. She is symbolic of so many things. The Mary Seacole Trust now, through its education programme, visits many schools to raise awareness of Mary Seacole, and we have a diversity and leadership programme as well. But most importantly, we have to maintain the statue, and all of the proceeds to help maintain the statue are raised by the charity. Unfortunately, there is significant work that is now required, so once again we call upon the public for their help in maintaining Mary's statue, and any donations that can be made to the Mary Seacole Trust in order to help with the maintenance work will be greatly received.